Alright everyone, today is a little bit of a different video. It's not specifically a build, but it's more informational and to highlight a sleeper stat in patch 1.8 for a variety of reasons. Now I wouldn't normally do this, it's kind of a response to a couple of comments, more than a couple, a lot of comments that I've gotten about skill haste, and that's the topic of the video. Skill haste and how it is good in patch 1.8. And if someone is actively telling you that skill haste is garbage in patch 1.8 or that you should never pay attention to it, they are wrong. They are flat out, stone cold, completely wrong, and they should just not spread that type of information anymore. Now, I'm going to highlight exactly why over the course of the video, but just keep in mind it's going to be a little bit of a rant with a lot of information. It's going to be a lot of me talking. But without further ado, let's get started. So as you can see, I have a striker build. This is pretty much my go-to build right now in patch 1.8. And I have a bunch of different versions of this build, but I have one that's my absolute favorite, and it relies on 40% skill haste. But to prove my point, before we talk about that, I am going to show you a version which has pretty much all the same stats. If we scroll down to skills here, though, you can see that I have 0% skill haste. I have pretty much the exact same toughness, very near to the same amount of stamina, the same amount of skill power, and pretty much the same amount of firearms and firepower as the version that I'll be showing next after this, but the important distinction is 0% skill haste. So now that we know we have 0% skill haste, let's take a look at our skills that we're choosing to run. Now, with such low electronics, with such low skill power, we're not going to be doing a whole lot of healing. So instead of opting for overdose, I have opted for booster shot. Now, booster shot, what it doesn't read here, gives you 15% bonus damage and 7.5% all damage resilience for 15 seconds when you pop it. But you can see that my cooldown is 51.4 seconds. So that means that I have about a 35-second cooldown period after I've popped my booster shot and the effect has faded, where I have nothing going on and the skill is essentially dead while it recharges. That's with 0% skill haste. The other skill that I'm opting to run is my immunizer. Now the reason for this is because it has a lower cooldown, and it also, when detonated manually, will give you 33% of your entire health pool back to your back in healing. It can also overheal, and since it's the immunizer mod, it can cleanse status effects. So I can drop this, cleanse a predator bleed, immediately detonate it once every 36.8 seconds, and receive 33% of my health pool. In this case, let's go back to the character sheet and just highlight exactly how much that is. In survivability, about 110,000 health every 36 seconds from that support station, which is a very common healing method that a lot of players are using. So, to review, with 0% skill haste, I get about 220,000 health per minute, right? Let's go back over here to abilities. Since I'm popping it every 36 seconds, we'll even be generous and we'll round down and say that you have better skill power than I do, or maybe you have a little bit of skill haste here and there in one location. You're going to have about 2 times a minute you're able to pop this and get about 220,000 health every minute. That is 2 cleanses of status effects. They can overheal with that healing. And you're also getting, once every 50 seconds, a pop of booster shot, which means for 15 seconds, give or take, out of a minute, you're going to have the 15% increased damage and the 7.5% increased all damage resilience. Before recalibrating, I'm just going to give you an overview of what exactly I am changing to then gain the 40% skill haste. I'm going to be changing my mods, which are right now stamina mods with crit hit chance, to be stamina mods with skill haste, 3% each. I'll be changing the other firearms mods that I have. One of them has health. It will be skill haste instead, but I'll be maintaining pretty much the exact same main stat allocation. It's going to be a little bit different, but that really doesn't have a big impact. And then I'll be re-rolling some other attributes. I have enemy armor damage on the gloves. That could be crit hit damage if you're going for a PvP build or PvE, it doesn't really matter. I'll be rolling skill haste there at 9%. I'll be rolling skill haste here on the chest piece instead of exotic damage resilience, because if you're stacking EDR, you really need a lot of it. You can't really stack it in one location and expect it to do very much. And I'll be rolling it on the holster as well instead of reload speed. But I'll show a snapshot in just a minute after I've recalibrated everything. Okay, here's the build after I've recalibrated. Now you can see a slight discrepancy here. I have a little bit more stamina. It's something like 50 points. Not much at all. It's really minimal. But what I have done, if we go over to the character sheet and we scroll down, you can see that I've buffed up to 40% skill haste. Now, the truth is, yes, you are losing a little bit of damage because you're dropping something like 5% critical hit chance. If you are opting for that on your gear mods, which some players do, you're dropping a little bit of critical hit damage off of the gloves or crit chance. You're dropping something there, and you are losing out on a bit of damage. But the reason that this is still effective is because you're gaining far more in utility and healing and other mechanics than you are losing in damage. Not only that, but you're also gaining back a bit of damage, as I'm about to highlight. So now if we go and check out the stat points, we can see that your booster shot is now on a cooldown of 30 seconds, which means you can pop it 2 times in a 1-minute period, giving 2 separate 15-second duration bonuses of damage mitigation and damage, meaning there's only a 15-second downtime in between when you have those bonuses active, and they are quite powerful bonuses. So that means that you have it up a 50-50 spread of the time. You can pop it twice. That increases the amount of healing that you're doing. Instead of popping this once every 50 seconds, you're popping it twice a minute, once every 30 seconds, and getting bonus healing from that. But the more important thing to look at, more so than booster, even though the damage, you are gaining back some damage here because you're popping it more frequently, which means a larger chunk of the time you then have the bonus damage active. The more important thing to look at is the immunizer. We now have a 22-second cooldown on a 33% health heal for our entire health bar. This means that 3 times a minute, roughly, it can be more if you get strike back procced, but about 3 times, a little bit less per minute, you are cleansing status effects, healing 33% of your entire health bar, and that healing can overheal. So this stacks up over the course of a 1, 2, 3, or 4 minute encounter, especially in a team, because these are AoE heals if you use them properly. This stacks up to be a tremendous amount of survivability. To summarize, for people that still aren't getting it and are going to jump in the comments and tell me that skill haste is useless in patch 1.8 and I don't know what I'm talking about, when popping your skills on cooldown, every single consecutive minute that a skirmish lasts, the player with 0% skill haste who thinks it's useless in patch 1.8 misses out on, give or take, 150,000 health of healing with a build that's very similar to this. There are other builds where this amount of healing is more defined and larger, but in this particular build, with the discrepancy in skill haste, they're missing out on 150,000 health and healing, most of which, by the way, is capable of overhealing. Most of that is coming from your immunizer. A status effect cleanse, an entire status effect cleanse every minute, which can cleanse a predator bleed, and about 10 seconds at least of what could have been 15% increased damage and 7.5%. The most common argument is that you're losing damage to stack skill haste. You're losing out on crit damage, crit chance, all of that nice stuff. But the argument is that you're gaining that damage back by staying alive longer, with more mitigation bonuses keeping you up, with more healing at your disposal, and the increased duration and the increased frequency at which you can pop booster shot and get that bonus base damage. In the end, it's not up to me to tell you what you can or can't use in patch 1.8. By no means is that the case. Build diversity is great. Using whatever makes you feel comfortable, whatever gives you a better play experience is all fine. But I am going to say that the people spreading false information saying that skill haste is a dead stat and that it is useless in patch 1.8 are wrong. They're just completely... there's no way that I can say this with enough zeal and passion to get it through to them how wrong they are. You should be paying attention to skill haste. You do not need to sacrifice every other stat roll in order to get it, but you should be aware of these things. In a metagame where a lot of different gear sets are stacked highly towards stamina with very little skill power, you need to be looking for ways to heal your character, and having a 33% health bar heal every 22 seconds is extremely strong. Couple that in with a increased frequency of booster shot, increased mitigation, increased damage. I can't say it enough, but having these heals at your disposal with the skill haste will keep you alive in more fights, will keep you alive longer so that you can stack Striker higher, and any damage that you're lacking or missing by removing that crit from the equation, you will gain back in Striker stacks in PvP encounters. You will gain some of that damage back simply from having booster shot more often. You will gain it back in other areas, and it gives the build more utility, a vastly superior amount of survivability, and it is not a dead stat. It is something that we should all be very aware of. And some of the best builds in the game, I believe, are still yet to be developed and will incorporate skill haste with a diverse selection of gear sets and pieces, maybe even the Ninja Bike bag. I know the classified sets are super strong right now, But some of these stats are being overlooked, and people are spreading false information and telling others that they're dead. So don't listen to anyone that tells you that skill haste is useless. That's going to wrap it up, guys. Thank you for watching. Total rant. It was very dry. It was me talking a lot. But I wanted to put this out there because I'm really sick of hearing people say that skill haste is useless and that I don't know what I'm talking about. There may be situationally other stats that you should roll. There are other, different numerical values that are larger and more effective than skill haste in some situations, but it's very good to roll. It's very powerful in a lot of ways, and you shouldn't ignore it. That's going to wrap it up, though. I'm going to stop rambling here. Check out the links down below. The Upper Echelon forums. There's a Patreon because of a whole bunch of stuff on YouTube. Just if you want to support, there's stuff to support. Take it easy, guys. Signing off.